Hey everyone. A lot of people say, what do you do, Roy? How can that auditing be fun anyway? Hopefully I can help you to understand. I do quality, safety and environmental certification. People say, what the heck is that? Others say, oh, yep, and then they just wander off. Others say, oh, I've heard of that. So it's called ISO certification, International Standards Organization, which is the English version of the French one, which I can never remember, and I've been in it for 30 years. But basically, there are three international standards on quality, safety, and environmental management. So we assess people's management systems against those three standards. It's all about checking to see if the business is planning and delivering the quality that was asked for. And while they're doing it, they don't hurt anybody and they don't hurt the planet. Pretty simple. The key part of what they're doing is they're supposed to be able to, all organisations should get progressively better. That's called continual improvement. The standards require that certain activities throughout the process are documented and recorded and proven consistently. Our job is to verify that those actions are taken in whatever way the organisation wants to do it, and usually in every part of the organisation. The standards don't say how to do it, they just say there are certain things that you have to record when you do what you do. And the organisation defines how it does those things. Let's take an example. A company wants to display the Australian made logo, which is pretty important. They also want to say that it's Australian grown and manufactured. So they have to have a bunch of processes. I'll start with the first one. As an example, they need a purchasing procedure. And in that purchasing procedure, they need to have a supplier selection process because they're saying that it's Australian grown and manufactured, which means it has to be Australian suppliers or growers and Australian manufacturers. That's the rules. So the selection criteria means that if they're going to select a supplier, sorry, I repeat myself a lot, they need to select an Australian grower. Another criteria might be the quality of the produce. One would hope so. Another one would be price, delivery capability. There's a whole range of criteria they could use. Whatever they produce, it needs to be a transparent process, something that can be seen, can be explained, and can be tested. And the easiest way is a written procedure. That process needs to be regularly tested by the company, by the organisation, which is an internal audit. And when they find failures or they find better ways of doing it, they need to document it because they need to be able to test to see if that process worked. That's called corrective action. And once they've put those changes in place, they need to test it again to see if it worked. What we do is we check to see that these sorts of steps are consistently applied. We also check that they're consistently applied across every aspect of the organisation, whether it's choosing the personnel. What sort of selection criteria do you have for your personnel? And it shouldn't be race, creed or colour, by the way. It should be competency, not qualification necessarily. Competency is important too. I'm an engineer. I know a lot of young engineers that are qualified, much more qualified than me. Useless. Green. Competency is important. Over time, now I've been doing this for 30 years, auditors get to know lots of stuff, especially if you work in a whole variety of industries like I have. I'll get a bit closer. There you go. Just to give you a few examples of the variety of auditing work that I've done and Susan's done with me on some of them. This is actually the Moorabool Bridges here in Geelong. That's part of the freeway, the bypass around Geelong. That was an exciting bridge. This is the Albury-Wodonga bypass. For you international people, Albury-Wodonga is twin towns on the border between Victoria and New South Wales. And Susan and I went there every month for 2 years. 4-hour drive up and a 4-hour drive back. We often stayed in a motel. We also audit the electrical industry, both the above ground or overhead industry and the underground works. We do lots and lots of roadworks audits, snow clearing in New South Wales and Victoria. We used to do lots of commercial greenhouse audits, which is why I know a lot about CO2 and just how much really is pumped into these things. The electrical industry, again, this is the backbone of my career, so I really enjoy auditing electrical companies and looking at their installation works. We even audit a registered training organisation that specialises in training in the rural industry. We also do road safety audits both day and night. We assess the compliance to the regulations for the traffic guidance system, but also the safety for the road users. Is it logical? I'm sure you've all driven through a roadworks site and think this is really weird. Where do I go next? So we test that as well. Big part of our business is also the underground electrical installation business, where we have, in Victoria, we have 50% of this market. Some other interesting jobs that I've been involved with is the 2 tunnels under the Yarra River, which is the Domain and the Burnley tunnels. I audited that entire construction work over about a 2.5 year period. I must have walked those tunnels 10 times, a dozen times maybe. We also audited the Tassie Hydro for quality assurance. I got to visit one of the dams once. Susan came on the last audit, but we didn't do an on-site audit at that time. A more exciting one, we audited the Royal Flying Doctor Service in the southeast region for 5 years. That was a really fun job, lots of travelling there. Some of the history of my career, I started life in the brown coal and electricity generation industry in Latrobe Valley, Victoria. That's Loy Yang A power station you can see there. Towards the end of my time in Victoria, I spent 3 years as the design manager during that, working for Siemens, big German company, back when renewables didn't exist and life was normal. After that, I was invited to work at Parliament House construction in Canberra, where I spent 5 years during that construction. My biggest claim to fame is designing all the monumental light fittings, the ones you can't buy in the shops. Probably the best project of my life, that one. Lots of things happened in my life there to grow my career and actually grow me as a man. It was quite a brilliant job, that one. I've worked on a lot of defence projects. An example is HMAS Waterhen in Sydney. I spent 2 years as the electrical services and QA manager there. So that's a snapshot of what I do. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure still enjoy doing this work. And thanks for watching.